The decision to authorize a missile strike is never taken lightly. It represents a momentous choice, fraught with risks and uncertainties. For a global superpower like the United States, the stakes are even higher. Such actions have the potential to reshape geopolitical landscapes, ignite conflicts, and impact millions of lives. At the heart of this decision-making process lies a complex web of strategic calculations. Leaders must weigh the potential benefits against the inherent risks, often with imperfect information and under immense pressure. Safeguarding national interests is paramount, but so too is the need to avoid unnecessary escalation and civilian casualties. This essay delves into the multifaceted considerations behind the authorization of missile strikes. It examines the strategic objectives driving such actions, the potential risks and benefits, and the varied international and domestic responses they elicit. Through the lens of a recent case study, President Biden's authorization of strikes inside Russia, this essay aims to shed light on the complex calculus involved in such critical decisions. Protecting its citizens, both at home and abroad, is a fundamental responsibility of any nation. This imperative extends to safeguarding its interests, economic, political, and strategic, on the global stage. In a world where threats can emerge swiftly and unexpectedly, nations must possess the means to deter aggression and respond decisively when necessary. Missile strikes, while representing a significant escalation of force, can serve as a powerful tool for protecting national interests. They can neutralize imminent threats, cripple an adversary's capabilities, and send an unequivocal message of resolve. For instance, a nation might authorize strikes against terrorist training camps to prevent future attacks on its soil. Or it might target an adversary's military infrastructure if it perceives a credible and imminent threat to its security. The use of military force, including missile strikes, is never the preferred option. However, it remains an indispensable tool in a world where diplomacy and deterrence sometimes fail. In an ideal world, conflicts would be resolved through diplomacy and peaceful negotiations. However, the reality is that nations often face threats that demand a swift and decisive response. These threats can range from terrorist organizations plotting attacks to rogue states developing weapons of mass destruction. Missile strikes can serve as a preemptive or responsive measure to counter such threats. By targeting key facilities, infrastructure, or personnel, these strikes can degrade an adversary's capabilities and disrupt their plans. The decision to utilize missile strikes in this context is often driven by a sense of urgency and the need to act decisively before a threat materializes or escalates. It reflects a recognition that inaction in certain circumstances can carry greater risks than the use of limited force. However, the decision to engage in such strikes is always made with the understanding that there are inherent risks involved. Collateral damage, though never the objective, is a tragic possibility. Escalation of conflict is another concern, as is the potential for unintended consequences. In an interconnected world, alliances play a vital role in maintaining global security and stability. These partnerships are built on shared values, common interests, and a commitment to mutual defense. When one ally faces a threat, the others are obligated to offer support and stand in solidarity. Missile strikes, while primarily intended to achieve specific military objectives, can also serve as a powerful signal of alliance solidarity. By taking military action in support of an ally under threat, a nation demonstrates its unwavering commitment to their security and sends a clear message of deterrence to potential aggressors. Such actions can strengthen alliances, bolstering trust and cooperation among partner nations. They underscore the idea that an attack on one is an attack on all, deterring future aggression and promoting regional stability. Section 5. The risks of intervention, a difficult calculus. The decision to authorize missile strikes is never taken lightly. It represents a calculated gamble, one with potentially far-reaching consequences. While such actions can be effective in achieving short-term objectives, neutralizing threats, deterring aggression, they also carry inherent risks that cannot be ignored. One of the most significant risks is the potential for escalation. Missile strikes, even if limited in scope, can provoke a response from the targeted nation or its allies. This can lead to a cycle of retaliation and counter-retaliation, potentially spiraling into a wider conflict. Another grave concern is the risk of civilian casualties. Despite advances in precision-guided munitions, there is always the possibility of unintended consequences. Even the most carefully planned strikes can result in civilian deaths, which are tragic and can erode international support for the intervening nation's actions. Furthermore, missile strikes can destabilize fragile regions, exacerbating existing conflicts or creating power vacuums that extremist groups can exploit. This can have unintended and long-lasting consequences for regional security and stability. Section 6. International Perceptions, a Divided World. The international community's response to missile strikes is rarely monolithic. Perceptions are often shaped by existing alliances, historical grievances, and the prevailing geopolitical climate. Allies of the nation carrying out the strikes are more likely to express support, viewing the actions as necessary to counter a shared threat or uphold mutual security agreements. They might emphasize the legitimacy of the targets, the proportionality of the response, and the restraint shown by the intervening nation. Adversaries, on the other hand, are prone to condemn the strikes as acts of aggression, violations of sovereignty, or even war crimes. They might highlight civilian casualties, question the legality of the intervention, and accuse the intervening nation of pursuing its own geopolitical interests under the guise of humanitarian concerns. The media plays a powerful role in shaping international perceptions. Different outlets, often reflecting their respective national biases, can present vastly different narratives of the same event. This can influence public opinion, sway international organizations, and impact diplomatic efforts to address the underlying conflict. Section 7. Domestic debates, morality, legality, and public opinion. Within the intervening nation itself, the authorization of missile strikes often sparks intense debates. These debates touch upon fundamental questions of morality, legality, and the role of military force in international affairs. Proponents of the strikes often argue that they are necessary to protect national interests, defend allies, and uphold international order. They might emphasize the imminence of the threat, the exhaustion of diplomatic options, and the moral imperative to act decisively to prevent a greater catastrophe. Opponents, however, raise concerns about the legality of such actions under international law, the potential for civilian harm, and the long-term implications for the nation's foreign policy. They might argue that the strikes set a dangerous precedent, undermine international norms, and risk entangling the nation in protracted conflicts. Public opinion, often shaped by media coverage and political rhetoric, can be volatile and divided. Support for military action might be high in the immediate aftermath of a perceived threat, but can erode over time, particularly if the strikes result in civilian casualties or fail to achieve their stated objectives. Section 8. Economic impacts, costs, markets, and global stability. The economic ramifications of missile strikes can be substantial and far-reaching, impacting both the intervening nation and the global economy as a whole. The most immediate impact is often felt in the defense sector. Deploying advanced weaponry, conducting airstrikes, and sustaining military operations require significant financial resources. This can strain national budgets, potentially diverting funds from other critical areas like healthcare, education, or infrastructure. Missile strikes can also roil global markets, injecting uncertainty and volatility into the global economy. If the strikes disrupt critical supply chains, affect regions vital for resources like oil, or damage key infrastructure, the economic fallout can be widespread. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that economic shocks in one region can quickly reverberate across borders. This can lead to currency fluctuations, reduced investor confidence, and a slowdown in economic growth, impacting businesses and consumers worldwide. Section 9. Case Study: Biden's decision and its implications. In November 2024, President Biden authorized a significant escalation of U.S. involvement in the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. For the first time since the war began, the United States launched long-range missile strikes targeting Russian territory. The decision, which came in the waning days of Biden's presidency, was met with mixed reactions both domestically and internationally. Supporters praised the move as a necessary step to bolster Ukraine's defenses and deter further Russian aggression. They argued that the strikes targeted legitimate military objectives and demonstrated the United States' unwavering commitment to its allies. Critics, however, expressed concerns about the potential for escalation. They argued that striking Russian territory could provoke a disproportionate response from Moscow, potentially drawing NATO into a wider conflict with Russia. Some also questioned the timing of the strikes, suggesting that they were politically motivated and intended to box in the incoming Trump administration. The long-term implications of Biden's decision remain to be seen. As of December 2, 2024, Russia has not yet responded militarily to the strikes. However, the Kremlin has condemned the actions as an act of aggression and warned of serious consequences. The situation remains fluid, and the world is watching closely to see how events unfold. The case of Biden's missile strikes serves as a stark reminder of the complex calculus involved in such decisions and the potential for unintended consequences in a volatile and interconnected world.